Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a story hotter than a desert mirage, where old allies turned bitter enemies, and the stakes are nothing less than nuclear showdowns and dreams of revolution. It's Israel, Iran, and Middle East dreams, from allies to enemies. Section 1. Unexpected allies under the Shah. Introduces the cooperative relationship between Israel and Iran under Shah Reza Pahlavi, when both countered Arab threats during the Cold War with secret oil deals. Picture yourself in the Middle East, where the air smells of ancient dust and modern missile fuel, and the tension between Israel and Iran crackles like a live wire. You're standing in a Tel Aviv cafe, sipping coffee strong enough to wake a coma patient, while news of airstrikes and protests flashes on your phone. Or maybe you're in Tehran, where whispers of rebellion hum beneath the regime's iron grip. Either way, you definitely wouldn't survive a day in this geopolitical soap opera without a bunker and a prayer. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're watching from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're stepping back to the 1950s, where the world was a chessboard, and the Cold War had everyone picking sides like kids choosing teams for dodgeball. In this corner, you've got Israel, a young nation carved out of conflict, surrounded by hostile neighbors waving "No Jews Allowed" signs. In the other corner there's Iran, ruled by Shah Reza Pahlavi, a guy who loved fancy suits and Western vibes more than your average Instagram influencer loves a selfie. These two weren't just neighbors, they were buddies teaming up in a secret handshake called the Peripheral Alliance. This wasn't some public bromance with parades and hashtags. No, it was a quiet deal to counter Arab states like Egypt and Iraq, who were cozying up to the Soviet Union. The Shah saw Israel as a useful partner, like picking the nerdy kid who's great at math for your group project. Together, they'd keep the region's Soviet fan club in check. Now, here's the juicy bit historians don't plaster on billboards. Iran was Israel's secret oil dealer. Yep, while Arab nations slapped embargoes on Israel faster than you block a spammy ex on WhatsApp, Iran was sneaking oil through back channels. This wasn't just a few barrels, we're talking pipelines and tankers, keeping Israel's economy humming. The Shah's regime, flush with oil money, didn't mind making a buck while sticking it to their Arab rivals. You can almost smell the crude oil and the faint whiff of betrayal as Arab leaders caught wind of this. Imagine the Shah winking at Israel like they're pulling off the heist of the century, because they kind of were. This alliance wasn't all about oil and high fives though. The Cold War was a pressure cooker and both Israel and the Shah were walking a tightrope. The well-known event here is the 1956 Suez Crisis, when Israel, alongside Britain and France, invaded Egypt to keep the Suez Canal open. Iran didn't join the fight, too busy polishing their peacock throne, but they quietly cheered Israel on, like you root for your friend in a bar fight without getting your hands dirty. The Shah sent diplomatic nods, ensuring Israel had a friend in a region where enemies were as common as sand. Historians still debate whether the Shah's support was pure pragmatism or if he genuinely saw Israel as a long-term ally. Either way, it kept the Soviets at bay and the oil flowing. But let's not get too cozy. This friendship had cracks like a phone screen after you swear you only dropped it once. The Shah was juggling his own problems, angry clerics, restless students, and a population that wasn't thrilled about his love for Western gadgets and authoritarian vibes. You'd think he was running a Persian version of a reality show called Keeping Up with the Pahlavis. Meanwhile, Israel was dodging missiles and diplomatic shade from Arab neighbors. This alliance was less ride or die, and more, let's hang out until something better comes along. Spoiler alert, something worse came along, but we'll get there. For now, picture yourself in a Tehran bazaar, haggling over a rug while spies swap secrets in the shadows. The air's thick with saffron and suspicion, and you can't help but wonder how this odd couple, Israel and Iran, kept their partnership under wraps. It's like they were running a Cold War speakeasy, serving up strategy instead of cocktails. Funny thing is, if you tried explaining this to your TikTok followers today, they'd probably think it's fake news. And honestly, who could blame them? Two nations now lobbing missiles at each other were once sharing oil and intel like it was no big deal. Stick around because this story's about to get messier than a falafel stand at rush hour. Section 2. Islamic Revolution and Nuclear Ambitions. Analyzes the 1979 Islamic Revolution that turned Iran into Israel's enemy, while revealing Iran's secret nuclear program launched in the 1980s. You're still in the thick of it, standing in a Tehran street in 1979, where the air's heavy with smoke and the chance of revolution. It's like the city's hosting the world's angriest rock concert, and the headliner is a bearded cleric named Ayatollah Khomeini. Remember that Cold War speakeasy where Israel and Iran were swapping oil and high fives? Yeah, that's gone, torched faster than a bad Tinder date. The Shah, with his fancy suits and Western dreams, is on a plane out of town, leaving behind a country ready to rewrite its story. You can feel the ground shaking as the Islamic Revolution sweeps through, turning Iran from a glitzy monarchy into a theocracy with a chip on its shoulder. It's like someone flipped a switch and suddenly Israel's old buddy is glaring at them like they stole their lunch money. This is the big one. The 1979 Islamic Revolution, the moment Iran's history does a 180. The Shah's out, Khomeini's in, and the new regime's not exactly sending Israel love letters. Khomeini's preaching a fiery brand of anti-Western, anti-Zionist rhetoric, calling Israel the little Satan to America's great Satan. You're watching crowds burn Israeli flags in the streets, and it's not just for show. These folks mean business. The revolution's a seismic shift, like when your favorite chill playlist gets replaced with death metal. Iran's new leaders see Israel not as a former ally but as a symbol of everything they hate: Western influence, secularism, and that pesky knack for surviving in a hostile neighborhood. The Peripheral Alliance? Dead and buried, replaced by a vow to wipe Israel off the map. Now, here's the obscure fact that'll make you raise an eyebrow. Even as Khomeini was railing against Israel, Iran quietly kept some backdoor deals going. In the early 1980s, during the Iran-Iraq War, Israel secretly supplied Iran with weapons. Yep, you heard that right. It's like your ex showing up with pizza after you've unfollowed them on every platform. Israel, ever the pragmatist, wanted to keep Iraq busy and figured arming Iran was the lesser evil. These deals were hush-hush, funneled through shady middlemen, and you can almost smell the cigar smoke in those secret meetings. Historians still debate whether this was Israel playing 4D chess or just hedging their bets in a chaotic region. Either way, it's a wild footnote in a story that's already bonkers. But let's zoom in on the nuclear angle because this is where things start getting spicy. In the 1980s, Iran's new regime, flush with revolutionary zeal, begins poking around the idea of nuclear power. Officially, it's for peaceful energy, like when you say you're going to the gym but end up eating chips on the couch. The obscure truth is that Iran's nuclear ambitions kicked off under Khomeini, with scientists quietly restarting a program the Shah had shelved. You're picturing labs hidden in dusty bunkers, where engineers in bad 80s haircuts are tinkering with uranium. Israel catches wind of this and starts sweating bullets. They've got a history of preemptive strikes. Remember the Suez Crisis from our last chat? And the idea of a hostile Iran with nuclear toys is their worst nightmare. It's like finding out your neighbor's building a flamethrower in their garage. The revolution doesn't just flip Iran's foreign policy, it rewires its soul. Khomeini's regime is all about exporting the revolution, like they're trying to franchise their brand of theocracy. You can hear the loudspeakers blaring anti-Israel propaganda, and it's not just talk. Iran starts funneling money to groups like Hezbollah, who'll become Israel's headache in Lebanon. It's like Iran's writing checks for chaos, and Israel's the one paying the price. The streets of Tehran feel alive with purpose but also paranoia, as the regime clamps down on dissent. You're dodging revolutionary guards who look like they haven't smiled since the Shah's last disco party. And here's a little jab. If you tried pitching this revolution as a Netflix series, they'd probably say it's too intense even for their algorithm. So you're standing there watching Iran transform from Israel's oil buddy to its sworn enemy. The air's thick with the scent of burning flags and the buzz of secret nuclear plans. It's like the whole region's a powder keg and someone's already lit the fuse. Funny thing is, if you told someone in 1979 that Israel and Iran would one day be lobbing missiles over nuclear fears, they'd probably laugh. Then stop when they saw Khomeini's glare. This is no longer the Cold War speakeasy, it's a full-on geopolitical cage match. And we're just getting started, so don't touch that dial. Section 3. Iranian People's Resistance. Describes the resistance movements of the Iranian people. 2009 Green Movement, 2022 to 2025 protests, against the authoritarian regime, and Iran's role in funding Hamas and Hezbollah. You're now in the heart of Tehran, 2009, and the streets are electric with defiance. The air smells of tear gas and desperation, as crowds chant for freedom under a sky heavy with the regime's watchful eyes. Remember that Cold War speakeasy where Israel and Iran were trading oil and high fives? That's ancient history now, replaced by Khomeini's revolution and its iron-fisted legacy from '79. You're dodging protesters waving green banners, their voices raw from shouting against a stolen election. This is the Iran of the people, not the clerics, and they're fed up with a regime that's tighter than your skinny jeans from high school. It's a moment where hope and rage collide, like a viral TikTok trend that's equal parts inspiring and chaotic. Iran's not just fighting Israel anymore, it's fighting itself, and the ripples are shaking the Middle East. The big event here is the Green Movement of 2009, when millions of Iranians poured into the streets after a disputed presidential election. You're right there, feeling the pavement vibrate as protesters demand reform, accusing the regime of rigging the vote to keep Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in power. It's like watching a nation try to swipe left on its own government. The regime hits back hard. Think riot police with batons and a vibe straight out of a dystopian movie. This wasn't just a protest, it was a scream for change, with young Iranians risking everything to challenge the theocracy that's been suffocating them since Khomeini's days. The movement's failure left scars, but it showed the world that Iran's people aren't all in lockstep with their rulers' anti-Israel rants. Here's the obscure fact that'll make you do a double take. During the Green Movement, some Iranian protesters actually reached out to Israel for support. Yeah, it's like messaging your ex's ex for backup in a fight. Underground activists, using smuggled internet connections, sent messages praising Israel's democracy and asking for solidarity. This wasn't exactly a Zoom call with Tel Aviv, but it showed a flicker of connection, a desperate hope that anyone might amplify their cause. Historians still debate whether these outreach attempts were genuine cries for help or just a few voices drowned out by the regime's propaganda machine. Either way, it's a wild twist in a story where Iran's leaders are busy painting Israel as the ultimate villain. But let's zoom out, because Iran's not just wrestling with its own people, it's playing a dangerous game with Israel through proxies. The regime's been funneling cash and weapons to groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, turning the Middle East into a chessboard where Iran's knights are armed with rockets. You can almost hear the clink of coins as Iran bankrolls Hezbollah's attacks on Israel from Lebanon, or Hamas's tunnels in Gaza. It's like Iran's running a crowdfunding campaign for chaos, and Israel's the target. Back in 2006, the Israel-Hezbollah war lights up the region, with Iran's support for Hezbollah turning a border skirmish into a full-blown crisis. You're picturing Beirut's skyline lit by explosions, while Iran's clerics cheer from the sidelines like they're watching their favorite team score. This proxy war strategy keeps Iran's hands technically clean, but it's driving Israel up the wall. The Iranian people's fight, though, is what keeps this story human. You're weaving through Tehran's crowds, where students and shopkeepers alike are whispering about freedom. The regime's response is brutal. Arrests, beatings, and internet blackouts that make your Wi-Fi dropping during a Netflix binge look trivial. Here's a little jab. If you tried live streaming the Green Movement, you'd probably get banned for too much reality. The protests show Iran's split personality, one part revolutionary zeal, one part desperate for change. And while the regime's busy funding Hamas and Hezbollah, its own people are dreaming of a life without clerics micromanaging their every move. It's like Iran stuck in a bad group chat with no mute button. So, you're standing there, the taste of tear gas lingering, watching a nation at war with itself and its neighbors. Iran's leaders are doubling down, supporting proxies to poke at Israel while crushing dissent at home. It's a high-stakes game, like playing poker with missiles instead of chips. Funny thing is, if you told those 2009 protesters that their fight might one day weaken Iran's regime enough to change the Middle East, they'd probably hope you're right, but brace for the worst. The seeds of rebellion are planted, and they're about to grow wilder than your uncle's conspiracy theories at Thanksgiving. Section 4. Israel's nuclear strikes on Iran. Examines the failure of the 2015 JCPOA nuclear deal and Israel's recent airstrikes, 2024 to 2025, on Iranian nuclear facilities like Natanz to prevent nuclear weapons. You're now in 2015, standing in a sleek Vienna conference room, where the air smells of overpriced coffee and diplomatic tension. World leaders are shaking hands over a deal that's supposed to tame Iran's nuclear ambitions, but the vibe's less, peace on earth, and more, let's hope this doesn't blow up in our faces. Remember that Cold War speakeasy with Israel and Iran's oil and high fives? That's a faded memory, replaced by Khomeini's revolution, the Green Movement's cries for freedom, and Iran's proxy wars with Hamas and Hezbollah. Now you're watching the world try to put a leash on Iran's nuclear program, while Israel's pacing like a nervous cat outside a laser pointer convention. The stakes are sky high, think nuclear warheads, not just Twitter feuds, and you can feel the weight of every pen stroke on that agreement. The big event here is the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, better known as the Iran nuclear deal. You're seeing powerhouses like the US, China, Russia, and the EU sit across from Iran, hammering out a plan to limit uranium enrichment in exchange for sanctions relief. It's like convincing your friend to stop hoarding fireworks for a safer 4th of July. Iran agrees to scale back its centrifuges, let inspectors poke around, and pinky swear they're only into peaceful nuclear energy. Israel, though, isn't buying it. They're convinced Iran's just playing nice to buy time, like when you pretend to study but scroll Instagram instead. The deal's hailed as a diplomatic win, but cracks show fast. By 2018, the US pulls out, calling it a bad deal, and Israel's cheering from the sidelines, ready to take matters into their own hands. Here's the obscure fact that'll make you tilt your head. Iran's nuclear program wasn't just a military flex, it was a status symbol for the regime. In the 2000s, Iran's leaders paraded their nuclear progress like it was a shiny new Tesla, boosting national pride to distract from economic woes and those green movement protests we talked about. You can almost hear the propaganda jingles hyping up centrifuges like they're the next big thing since sliced bread. This wasn't just about weapons, it was about the regime saying, "Look, we're a big deal." Historians still debate whether Iran's nuclear push was more about survival against Israel and the West or a propaganda stunt to rally a restless population. Either way, it kept Israel on edge like a neighbor spotting a beware of dogs sign and hearing growls. Fast forward to 2024 to 2025, and Israel's done waiting for diplomacy to work. You're now picturing fighter jets screaming over the desert, targeting Iran's nuclear sites like Natanz, where uranium's been spinning faster than a DJ at a rave. These airstrikes, reported in early 2025, are Israel's bold move to cripple Iran's nuclear dreams before they become a reality. It's like smashing your friend's gaming console to stop them from beating you at Call of Duty. The strikes hit hard, bunkers, centrifuges, and air defenses go up in smoke. Iran retaliates with missile barrages on Israel, but their nuclear program takes a serious hit. You can smell the burning metal and feel the ground shake as the Middle East teeters on the edge of something bigger. Israel's logic is simple. A nuclear Iran isn't just a threat, it's an existential no-go. This escalation isn't just about nukes, it's personal. Iran's regime, still clinging to Khomeini's anti-Israel playbook, uses the nuclear card to flex power while crushing dissent at home. You're back in Tehran streets, where the green movement's spirit lingers, but the regime's grip is tighter than a cheap phone case. Here's a quick jab. If Iran's clerics ran a Yelp page, they'd get 1 star for freedom and 5 for intimidation. Israel's strikes aren't just about Natanz. They're a message to Iran's leaders and their proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah, that the game's changing. And here's another zinger. Trying to keep up with this conflict is like binge-watching a series where every episode ends on a cliffhanger. You're left wondering if the next move is war or a miracle. So, you're standing in the fallout of failed deals and fresh airstrikes, the air thick with jet fuel and fear. Iran's nuclear ambitions are battered but not dead, and Israel's playing hardball. It's like watching two players in a high-stakes poker game, except the chips are missiles, and the table's the Middle East. Funny thing is, if you told those Vienna diplomats in 2015 that we'd be here, with Israel bombing Iran's nuclear sites, they'd probably choke on their espresso. The dream of a peaceful deal's fading, but the fight's far from over. Stick around because the next chapter's got rebellion, hope, and a shot at changing the game. Section 5. Opportunity for Middle East Peace. Predicts the potential collapse of Iran's regime, its impact on Hamas and Hezbollah, and proposes a multilateral diplomatic path to achieve regional peace. You're standing in Tehran 2025, where the air's thick with the scent of burning tires and the roar of rebellion. It's like the city's hosting a sequel to the Green Movement, but this time the stakes are higher than a SpaceX launch. The Cold War speakeasy of oil and high fives is a distant dream, buried under Khomeini's revolution, failed nuclear deals, and Israel's recent airstrikes on Natanz. You're weaving through crowds chanting for freedom, their voices cracking under the weight of decades of oppression. The regime's grip is slipping like a bad Wi-Fi signal during a Zoom call, and you can feel the Middle East teetering on the edge of something monumental. Iran's people are done with clerics, nuclear bravado, and funding proxies like Hamas and Hezbollah. They want change, and it smells like revolution. The big event here is the 2022 to 2025 Iranian protests, sparked by Mahsa Amini's death in 2022 and escalating into nationwide uprisings. You're in the thick of it, watching women cut their hair in defiance and students clash with riot police, their courage brighter than a viral Instagram filter. These protests aren't just about hijabs. They're a middle finger to a regime that's been choking Iran since '79. The Green Movement's spirit is back, but angrier, like when your favorite band reunites but drops a heavier album. The regime's response is brutal, tear gas, bullets, and executions, but cracks are showing. You're hearing whispers of military defections like soldiers saying, "Nah, I'm not shooting my cousin for these guys." This is Iran's people betting everything on a freer future. Here's the obscure fact that'll make you blink. During these protests, some Iranians used coded graffiti to mock Hamas and Hezbollah, Iran's pet projects. Picture spray-painted walls in Tehran with slogans like, "No more cash for rockets," hidden in Persian wordplay. It's like dissing your boss in a Slack channel they'll never check. These messages show how fed up people are with their regime bankrolling chaos while Iranians struggle to buy bread. Historians still debate whether this anti-proxy sentiment is widespread or just urban youth venting, but it's a sign that Iran's revolutionary export business is losing fans at home. You can almost smell the fresh paint and the regime's panic as they try to scrub these walls clean. Now let's talk about the big picture. The regime's days might be numbered, and that could reshape the Middle East. You're picturing a domino effect. If Iran's theocracy falls, Hamas and Hezbollah lose their sugar daddy, like influencers dropped by a sponsor. The 2009 Green Movement showed Iran's people want change, and these protests are round two. Israel's 2025 strikes on Natanz didn't just hit uranium. They exposed the regime's weakness, emboldening protesters. You're hearing analysts predict a collapse, like when you bet on a Game of Thrones character surviving but know they're doomed. Without Iran's cash, Hezbollah's rockets rust and Hamas's tunnels crumble. This could open a window for peace like a Middle East version of a ceasefire group chat. Here's a jab. If peace talks were a dating app, Israel and its neighbors would still be ghosting each other, but at least Iran's regime wouldn't be swiping right on chaos. But peace isn't a guarantee. It's a long shot, like winning the lottery while dodging lightning. The regime's fighting dirty, and you're seeing tanks roll through Tehran streets, their rumble drowning out chants. Yet the people keep pushing like they've binged every underdog movie on Netflix. Here's another zinger. If Iran's clerics had a LinkedIn profile, their top skill would be crisis mismanagement. The Middle East has seen empires fall before. Remember the Shah's exit? And this could be another. You're standing at a crossroads where one path leads to a freer Iran and a calmer region, and the other to more missiles and misery. It's like choosing between a chill beach vacation or another family reunion with your conspiracy-obsessed uncle. So you're here, surrounded by the chaos of rebellion and the faint hope of peace. The regime's wobbling and the Middle East is holding its breath. Funny thing is, if you told those 1950s oil traders in that Cold War speakeasy that Iran's people might topple their rulers and give peace a shot, they'd probably spill their martinis. This story's not over, it's a cliffhanger, and the next chapter's up to the people you're standing with now. You step back, the echoes of Tehran's protests fading, and take a deep breath. From the Cold War's secret oil deals to Israel's 2025 strikes on Natanz, this journey's been wilder than a roller coaster with no brakes. Iran's regime, born in '79, fueled by nuclear dreams and proxy wars, is facing its toughest test, its own people. You've seen the Green Movement spark, the JCPOA's collapse, and the courage of Iranians chanting for freedom. If this regime falls, it's game over for Hamas and Hezbollah's funding, like cutting off a streaming service mid-binge. That could crack open a door for Middle East peace, though it's more like a rusty gate than a grand entrance. History whispers lessons here. The Shah's fall showed no rulers untouchable, and Israel's survival proves resilience beats rhetoric. Yet peace needs more than protests. It needs leaders who'd rather talk than launch missiles. You're left wondering if Iran's people can rewrite their story, or if the region's stuck in this loop of conflict, like a bad reboot of a classic film. For now, the Middle East is a powder keg, but hope's a stubborn spark. So, keep an eye on Tehran, because this isn't just Iran's fight, it's a chance to reshape a region that's been burning too long. Drop a comment. Do you think peace is possible, or are we in for more chaos? And hey, if you like this ride, hit that like button and subscribe. Until next time, stay curious and maybe keep a bunker on speed dial.